Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned to the MC Lars podcast. It is Monday, July 22nd, and this is episode 47 with Jon Thatcher Longley. Now, for years, Jon Thatcher Longley's played drums with me, and in 2009, on This Gigantic Robot Kills, I wrote a song called 35 Laurel Drive about his messy house. So every time we used to play a show, and every time we do play shows, people come up to Jon and say, "Yo, Jon, clean up your house." He's like, "Ha ha." He's a very good sport about it. But that song was kind of maybe not the nicest thing to do, but we kind of clear the air on this episode. He talks about the house, why it was messy. We talk about our friendship. We talk about our early tours together. We talk about what he's doing now, Warped Tour, a lot of great stories. So Jon's one of my favorite people. He's one of my groomsmen in my wedding last year. And we played with Big D and the Kids Table in Boston recently. And then we played the Atlantic City Warped Tour dates. So we got the band together, learned the old songs. It was fun. I love Jon to death. He lives in Tampa, St. Pete area of Florida. And he flew up for both of those shows. So shout out to Jon. I got a new song coming out on Patreon this week. It's about Mad Magazine, rest in peace to a cultural institution. So be sure to subscribe on Patreon if you haven't already. And this week's episode is brought to you by some of our old Patreon supporters, William, Gianna, and Phil. And some of our new ones, Ben, Caitlin, and Bob Nielsen, my dad. He's supporting me on Patreon. Thanks, Dad. That's sweet. So this week I've had some time off between tours and recording, and I'm writing songs about the California Gold Rush. So I spent some time in Northern California looking at some of the famous places of the top part of the state that a lot of people don't go to. I mean, the main places in California that most people explore are LA, the Bay Area, and sometimes the Central Coast, where my family moved when I was in middle school. So I went up the coast, and I want to tell you about my trip because it was kind of exciting and epic. So I drove up, I went to Mendocino, and I biked on this bike trail called the Big River Trail, which is dope, which is kind of like this 12-mile round trip road along this river. And they used to log trees and bring them out on these ships that would come up the river. But now it's just like a really cool bike path. So I'd always wanted to do that because I saw that last year and I was like, oh, that'd be a cool place to see. So I went there. Then I drove up the coast. I stayed in Humboldt County in a town called Scotia at an Airbnb. And this town used to be owned by Pacific Lumber. And then after the recession in 2008, Pacific Lumber kind of dismantled, and now the houses are owned privately, but it's one of the last company towns in the country. And it's funny that earlier this summer, I was in Jim Thorpe, another former company town, like a mining town. So it's interesting to see the two East Coast and West Coast versions of the company towns. The next day, I drove up through Eureka and Arcata and had lunch and walked around. I love that place. It was beautiful in the summer. There was a President McKinley statue in the Arcata Plaza that was taken down because of his, you could say, racist approach to treating Native Americans, which, you know, people, the history is heavy. So Arcata is a very progressive place. So they took it down, which, you know, I'm in support of positive historical legacy like that. Also because McKinley was president when Hawaii was annexed, and they say he was insensitive to the Native people of Hawaii. So they tore the statue down. So I'd never been up there and seen the plaza without the statue. I drove up to Crescent City, and I was going to go to this aquarium called Ocean World, but it was like an hour wait for the tour. It was like $20. I was like, I don't know. I don't need to wait to see like old fish. Maybe I should have stayed, but I went on YouTube and watched the tour. I went to a pawn shop across the street and see if they had any old guitars or anything. And it was like guns, old CDs. I was like, all right, this is the state of Jefferson, which a lot of people might not know. Like, people in Northern California are kind of politically conservative. They're kind of libertarian. So there's this movement to annex the top of California to make it the state of Jefferson, which is interesting. I drove across, I stayed in a place called Happy Camp at this Airbnb on a river. That was cool. I was swimming around with the trout, hanging out there. And then the next day I drove up through Trinity, which is part of the Shasta Trinity Wilderness. And I went to a pizza place. They let me use their phone because there was no cell phone service, but there was a giant flag that said State of Jefferson. And I was like, oh, well, we're here. I'm here in this fabled part of California that people don't spend much time. But the most exciting part of the journey was driving down Highway 96, which is also called the Bigfoot Highway, which is where most of the Bigfoot sightings in Northern California have been. I saw this video of this guy's on a church retreat trip, and he and his campers see this silhouette in the mountains, it looks like Bigfoot, and they see like a camp that they think Bigfoot made. So I asked this woman at a coffee shop that was on Highway 96 if she'd ever seen Bigfoot or heard of anyone who had. And she said she had friends who thought they'd seen Bigfoot, and she'd seen like branches broken off very high, which apparently the Sasquatch does to build his little shed. So it was interesting to drive through this area. I came down, stayed in Trinity, drove up over to Mount Shasta, spent the night in Tahoe, then came down the Gold Rush Trail through this town called Jackson, an old Gold Rush town, and then I came back to the Central Coast. So it was like 1,500 miles, but I drove and hiked and biked and swam and learned a lot about California history. So I'm ready to make this album. So that was my epic trip. I love that part of the state because it's beautiful. I stopped in this area called Hat Creek where these firemen were having like this community barbecue, and I went to check that out. You know, it's just friendly, kind people, and it's removed from the rest of California, removed from the rest of the world, but listening to music, driving, thinking, writing, it's good. That's what summer's good for. So this weekend, any of you who are on the East Coast near Philadelphia or Jersey and New York, I'm playing this Comic Con with Mega Ran called New Jersey Gamer Con in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. That's Saturday, July 27th. Be sure to check that out. As for now, this is my interview with the legendary drummer, awesome friend, Jon Thatcher Longley on the MC Lars podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Jon Thatcher Longley of multiple bands, multiple projects, career musician who's branched off into other stuff, but you can find him on the road often. Lives down in Florida, and we got stories. What's up, Jon?
What's up, man?
Where are we right now?
We are in my parents' house in Short Hills, New Jersey.
You grew up in Jersey, right?
I did grow up in Jersey and until I was 26.
Did you grow up in Short Hills, or did you moved here in the 90s? Like I heard you talking to Mike about that.
Yeah, I've always been in this area of northern New Jersey. So, yeah.
How would you typify northern New Jersey versus southern New Jersey? How are they different?
You know, NorCal and South California.
Right.
You know, it's just different breed of people, different style of living, different geographics. You know, it's farmland up in a lot of South is like pine barren farmland, trailer parks, and just, you know, up north it's more city living and greasier people that just want their information quick.
Well, northern Jersey is greater New York, and southern Jersey is like greater Philadelphia.
Sure.
In a lot of ways.
Sure.
Which is interesting. Do you regret, like, do you miss Jersey? Are you glad you live in Florida now, or would you ever come back here?
The music scene growing up here, like in hindsight, was incredible. And I'm 33 now, so I was fortunate enough to get a couple years of like the fallout of a great music scene, which, you know, obviously shifted the path of my life. So
right,
I love it in that regard, in that there was so much opportunity here musically, you know, but I live in a very nice suburban area, you know. There's nothing to complain about.
There's in the Short Hills Mall, isn't it like one of the most fancy malls in the world?
Yeah, you know, I was in Phoenix walking through the airport, and I saw a big light up like billboard display saying the Short Hills Mall. And when I say I'm from Short Hills, if anybody's ever heard of it, it's because of that mall. But am I glad that I left Florida to answer, or left New Jersey to answer your question? Absolutely.
Right.
I was literally just talking to somebody about this. I think that you have to move out of where you grew up. At least experience, like, if not just reality, just something else. You know, like moving out of where you grew up is very important, I think.
And there's that quote in the Bible, no man is a prophet in his hometown, right?
Yeah.
To have stories and to have a life that is surprising, you have to leave. And you can always come home. But like you and I, we were talking today, we've probably played 500 shows together, at least.
I haven't played more shows with anybody else.
Hey,
you know, we've definitely played close if not more than 500 shows together.
And you're permanently changed by that, aren't you? All our stories, all the countries we've been to, and all the different types of venues we played. And you come from a punk rock background. You told me you used to promote shows like at your church.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like, so nobody wanted to book my band when I was, 12, 13 years old, except for we played one show and it was at a country club, like a really upscale country club on the balcony of like a pool, lookout. And it was older families and like, people that were just done playing 18 holes of golf. Nobody wanted to hear it. It was terrible. and
what was the band?
The band was called Line 50.
And what would you say was the genre?
It was covers. Okay. It was like Bush Machine Head, Lit My Own Worst Enemy,
alt-rock,
Harvey Danger, Flagpole Sitta.
Are you drummed?
Yeah, man. I had this little beat up Tama kit, this new to me, like my first big size drum set.
How old were you?
12.
Oh my gosh. You started young.
Yeah, man. It was cool.
Why drums as opposed to bass or guitar or keys or?
Honestly, I started with piano. When I was younger, my mom and dad wanted me to play an instrument, from a really early age.
Yeah.
My mom played flute, so I hated piano. I remember the teacher was like this guy in this shady apartment a couple towns over, and my dad would, go in. It was a nice apartment. It's just like, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to sight read, row your boat. I was playing hockey at the time. I was interested in. I was just kind of, I don't know, a more alpha personality back then, and I didn't have the patience.
It's funny how a lot of career musicians are people who were like their parents told them to play one thing, or they were kind of like encouraged to do one thing, and they found their own calling. So what was your first experience sitting down with drums?
With drums, it's crazy. It's two parts, because in the early 90s, I must have been like 6, 7 years old, maybe 5 or 6, 5 to 7. My one of our Christmas presents, my brothers and I, was a guitar, like my first guitar starter pack, a bass starter pack, and a little like tin drum set, but it was like a drum set, it had like 2 drums. But we went up, I remember we were upstairs and do you remember a show called Denver the Lost Dinosaur?
No, I
it was
don't.
This like old school kind of like
Nickelodeon or something, or what?
I don't know, something like that. But anyway, the theme song, we tried to figure it out, and we finally like just were hitting a bunch of shit. It sounded decent.
Your 2 brothers and you.
Yeah, and they were like 3. I think Clifford was 3, Andrew was 5.
Wow.
And I was 7. So it's like, we had no idea what we were doing, but we invited my parents in for like a little concert. So anyway, that was my first experience playing drums. I just picked the drum thing because it looked more fun than a guitar or bass, Well,
it also seems like as the big brother, the odd man out, right? So you're like, this is the non-string instrument. I'll take one for the team. That paid off, right?
Yeah, it was like, it's a lot easier to make a drums sound somewhat passable rather than just open strumming, right? Amplified. So anyway, but I didn't really think much of it. Like, I didn't fall in love with needing to play the drums back then. It wasn't until 1996 when That Thing You Do came out. Remember that movie?
Yeah,
it was the Tom Hanks starred in his first directed role, about that 60s band with the drummer who wore the sunglasses all the time. And like, he was just like this, late 60s, like cool drummer,
And the Fountains of Wayne guy wrote the theme songs.
Mm-hmm. The guys from Fountains, absolutely. All of them, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But it was the music and the song, it was just so like catchy to me. And
you're like, he's a cool dude.
Cool. Yeah. I was just like, oh my gosh, dude, is that look at all these people just screaming for this kid. Like,
right. These beautiful women, right?
Yeah.
Love the drummer.
So I remember that from that that first little drum set years before, it also came with a VHS that, obviously we just threw it somewhere, but I found the VHS somewhere, and it was like teach yourself drums or teach your kid drums.
Right.
And I remember, I went into the kitchen and I grabbed two like kebab sticks, and I was hitting them on the table trying to follow along with this VHS wearing sunglasses. Right. So years later, I'm in middle school, right? And I've kept the passion alive. It was always like a thing where I wanted to figure out how to play drums, and slowly I was getting better and better, and I was taking lessons and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't like fully care enough to devote myself to it at that point. I loved hockey. I was a hockey player.
Right.
I loved playing hockey. And I remember I tried out, I wanted to play in the middle school band. I wanted to play snare drum because like we would do these assembly concerts and the band would perform. And I remember like being excited for it. I was like, oh, cool music,
Right.
And I got to watch the line of drummers and like, see all the quad guys and it was just like interesting to me. And then the jazz band would play and there was a drum set drummer.
Yeah.
He's a kid, like a senior or something but it was awesome.
Right.
I was just like, wow, like he's the focus of this entire show
Right.
And that was really cool. So I tried out. I'd been taking lessons, and I wasn't bad, dude. Like I was actually a decent drummer, right? Like, but behind the drum set. Like I remember going to lessons at 13, 14 years old, and the teacher would go out for a cigarette, and be like, all right, so just warm up around the kit, and I would just start playing these killer like grooves that were just like ridiculous. Like, and guys would come in and like other teachers would be like, were you just playing that? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, that's weird, man, but I like it. So I had this unique style of doing like this weird thing that turned into a post-hardcore kind of vibe, but that's a different story. But yeah, so I tried out for the band, and there were already 8 snare drummers, which was a lot because everybody wanted to play drums apparently that was in the band,
Right.
So the teacher, knowing that, the teacher said no. After I tried out, he was like, you're not good enough yet. You need to go practice. And I knew that I had played it well, like I sight read an entire piece that I had like practiced for a good while. And I thought I did it pretty well. Anyway, that deflated the hell out of me.
You were in middle school?
Middle school.
Yeah, it's a fragile age.
Yeah, it's a formative time,
Totally.
So I told my dad and my mom, and they were, they were just a little upset for me, But I told my teacher, my drum teacher, and he was like, this is what you're going to do. You're going to practice this, play it again, march in there tomorrow morning and play it for him. Demand an audience and play it for him.
Wow.
My dad came with me because he was like, a concerned father, and he knew how like much I wanted it, and I nailed it.
Wow.
Note for note. Like it was perfect.
So had you auditioned or not?
Yeah, so we march back in there. Like
Yeah.
I go in the morning, and he's in there, like moving chairs around and stuff. And I was like, "Hey," his name was Mr. Zarnecki. So I was like, "Can I audition for you, Mr. Zarnecki? Like I really want this, And I was kind of pissed, I was like, "You dick, like you little jerk off! I'm gonna
he hadn't
like
let you
nail
audition
this."
before.
He did let me, but he said
You have 2.
He said you're not good enough.
Oh, and then in 24 hours you nailed it.
It wasn't 24 hours. A couple days later,
Okay.
that I had another lesson. My drum
Yeah.
teacher was like, "You're gonna march in there, demand an audience," and
Right.
we walked in, and my dad was with me, and like he let me play it for him, and he's like, "All right, he's in."
Wow.
So
wait, shout out to your drum teacher.
Yeah,
What was his name?
Joe, no, I forget his last name. It was Joe. That's all I
Yeah.
know. But he was a student of Joe Morello, which is a famous jazz drummer. So
Wow. That's cool.
yeah, like a fusion New York City jazz drummer.
That's the cool thing. I was talking on the podcast my friend Chris, who went to NYU and he was in the jazz program, and about how like New York and the areas around New York, there's a huge emphasis on technical ability, especially with jazz and stuff adjacent to that. And
yeah, jazz is in my opinion, on drums, it requires the most like patience, you know, and it really defines you as a musician because you have to be tasteful.
right.
It's not about like how much you're doing or what you're doing necessarily, as where you're doing it and what you're doing. Like dynamics, it shapes your dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are incredible drummers, right? But they can't bring it down. And it took me a long time to realize that too. But jazz really is, if you can play jazz, that's why they're considered the top musicians.
Right. Well, because then you also have to understand theory and time signature.
Yeah, you have to understand every aspect of music in order to play jazz, you know.
I remember one of a very sweet memory was Warped 2015 when we were at the TEI tent and you were teaching drums to one of the kids. I remember that.
That was pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
That was
Backstage.
really, really cool to be able to do that, you know.
You're a good drum teacher. A good teacher.
I never knew that until that point. But
Yeah.
I remember you just came up to me and you were like, because I submitted my name for it, you know, being like, I think with Maylene and you. So I was trying to, you know, help out. And, you know, you just ran up to me and you were like, you have a drum lesson. Like, I was like, what? You're like, yeah, now come on, let's go. And like, you kind of like motioned me to wherever, this corner of the festival.
Right.
There's this little kid and his mom. I was a little caught off guard, but it was awesome, dude, because I felt natural doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a good teacher. And a lot of like drumming, it seems like, is a lot of listening, right? You really have to be a good listener.
Yeah.
As well as driving the song. I don't know. You have to like you talked about dynamics, listen to what people are doing and play off that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's listening to what people are doing, but it's also providing more of a backdrop.
Right.
You know, you're painting the canvas background while the vocalists usually, or like whatever other instruments, are really providing, you know, just pieces of the puzzle to showcase the singer.
Right.
That's how I think about it. Like, should I do this cool fill? You know, it'd be fun to play, and like, but is it gonna work?
There's that funny video of like,
sure, but no, don't do it. And it's patience.
you know that YouTube video? It's like a band playing like a church function, and the drummer is just like spinning his sticks and like going all Tommy Lee, and the band is just like, and that's like not a subtle, tasteful drummer.
No, that's not tasteful.
But you can twirl your sticks. You are like, I feel like you always hold back, because a lot of the stuff we play is, like you say, in the pocket. We often have backing tracks.
Well, a lot of what I play is mirrored from fake drums. Somebody programming
sample drums.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you think about it, dude, like all the best, you know, all this new hip hop, you know, and things. Why do people sample drums? Because it's the same thing. It's almost like a loop throughout a lot of hip hop songs, right?
Sure.
And that transposed is a really cool sound. Like when you just hear a drummer that's pocket playing exactly what a track would do.
Right.
Because you can't really like go crazy with a track when you're programming drums. Like nobody's gonna really sit there and be like, you know, and like program that, you know. But a drummer sitting there would be like, oh, I'm gonna throw this in, this tasty little lick, you know. Right. And it's just ridiculous. It works, but it's like, you know, like why would you do that? So less is more to me.
Yeah. And hip hop is based on that, taking like the James Brown like sample, right? Taking a funk record and just looping it forever. And that's like, hip hop is about simplicity. And so it's always fun playing with you because it's about layering on that and adding dynamics. And of course, I come from a rock background as much as a hip hop background. And so
that's what's cool. And like, that's why you know, we're playing the show tomorrow. And it's like that record, Robot Kills, that honestly, my starting and, you know, still doing my professional career in drums, playing for you, really shaped me as a drummer.
Interesting.
You know, because that record specifically, Robot Kills, is a really good blend of like hip hop beats with rock like undertones.
Right.
You know, so it's like the best of both worlds. So learning how to play that stuff really taught me how to, you know, slowly I would eliminate things. I remember eventually I was playing kick drum, snare drum, hi-hats.
Right.
And like, that's it.
You have a very portable kit, or at least on Warped Tour, you would have like a kind of simpler kit playing hip hop, right?
Yeah. I just started taking things away. And my mentality was like, well, it's not on the track. So I don't need to play it.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
like I don't need to be this super flashy like drummer. You know, all I need to do is play a beat over
Right.
and over and over again.
With the edits and with
Like, you know, all these samples and whatever going on.
Right.
But I got to the point where I was like, okay, if I take the rack tom away, that eliminates like most of my arsenal.
right.
If I take the floor tom away, that's like all of my arsenal. So I'm forced to just work with what I have, which
Right.
is kick, snare, hat.
Right. Right.
And I'm one trip from the van or bus in to the venue.
Right,
One
that's
trip, man.
Yeah.
You know, like I might as well be a singer.
You
You
can
know,
just carry. Yeah, it's very portable. You can tour in a car,
oh gosh,
which
yeah,
you have done
dude.
with Kosha Dills a lot.
Yeah, dude. I had this cool little pocket kit, which I'm spreading the word on. It's this Ludwig, like it's made by it's the Questlove signature,
Okay.
and the idea behind it was a small kit that was portable enough for like urban drummer, you know, like city drummer who could throw the thing in a cab, you know, and go to the gig.
Right. Right.
Who could throw it in a small car, go to the gig. You could even walk with it, like on a subway.
That's amazing.
And it's got a huge sound. So Kosha, who shout out to Kosha Dills, but he you know, asked me to tour with him again, and it was in a minivan. And I was like, oh gosh. Like, with a kit, that's gonna be miserable.
Right.
You know, kit, merch, you know, whatever else. So
There
I
was like three of you, right? There was like Israeli
like a video
woman.
person,
Yeah.
you know, like so I was forced to find a way to do the tour with like
No
a
trailer.
small kit
Yeah.
in a minivan. And I searched and I found this Breakbeats kit by Ludwig. And I was so skeptical. I had it shipped out to California.
Mm-hmm.
I flew out, you know, and like the day of the tour, I opened the box. You know, and like
Right.
I opened the mystery box to be like, oh gosh, I hope this worked. Like, I hope I don't look like some clown just like hitting a tin can.
Like your
you
first
know,
kid from
yeah,
Christmas.
like, you know, I'm driving a smart car and I'm 8 feet tall kind of look,
Right.
you know? And it was all right. I kind of like sat deep in the kit to make it look a little, you know, more, you know, evenly distributed
Right.
look. But we put mics on it at the first venue
Uh-huh.
and it sounded incredible.
That's great.
And I did 2 tours with that kit.
It's amazing.
And never once did I have to like really do anything to it. There was like a maintenance free kit, easy setup,
Yeah.
one load in and out.
Well, it's like when you have less, you have to do more with what you have. You have to be more creative, right? You think about, okay, how can I use a snare, a kick, and a tom or a crash?
So the small kit is a full kit.
Oh, it's just small.
Yeah. So it's a rack tom, a floor tom, a snare, a kick, hats, and a crash.
Wow.
So the cool thing about it is that, especially for hip hop, if you're a drummer battling a sample live, these toms are so small that they have like a modular tone. So you hit it, it's like boom, boom, boom,
Like
you
an
know,
808.
like this. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
almost like an electronic, like 80s synth kind of like modular like sound to it. And
Yeah.
it cuts above the sample and
Ah.
it sounds really tasteful.
Right.
You know, almost like a sampled tom.
That's cool.
So it was really cool. But yeah, less is more, man.
Yeah.
Honestly. And I mean, that's the point of all of this. Is that
No, you're
less
right.
is more.
And touring is you learn that 75% of touring is like most of your time you're traveling, you're at the hotel, you're sleeping. It's like very infrequently like you're on stage, right?
Hotel if you're lucky.
Hotel if you're lucky,
Yeah.
right? No, totally.
5 years in, you deserve hotels. You know, like just
hopefully.
5 years in, then you get a hotel.
And you don't want to like stay with fans because when you start out, you stay with fans, but then it becomes like your obligation to entertain them and talk to them. It can be awkward. Or in the morning, there's like a dynamic where someone's got to get up for work, so you can't be sleeping, and
Yeah, I mean,
that's not fun.
It's
at a
not
certain
fun.
point.
And I mean, luckily for myself, I was kind of, you know, I didn't owe these people anything. Like they weren't,
Sure.
you know, and like I was friendly to everybody,
Yeah.
but the conditions sometimes were just like, oh gosh, like I was kind of just there, and I felt bad for you most of the time because like
When we used to stay with people.
yeah, and like you're the nicest guy in the world, so you want to, you know, when you meet up with your friends on the road, you obviously you're tired as all hell, but
Yeah.
you want to like fight it just because you're like, oh, I only see you once a year, whatever,
Right.
you know.
That's tough.
So you know, but being a puzzle piece to, you know, the mess at hand was not always the most fun. So staying with the fans was not fun ultimately.
Yeah, and unless it's like, but shout out to any fans we stayed with, and not to
Sure.
say that it's like we don't appreciate it, but it's always been like,
Well, let me interrupt you real
Yeah.
quick. I can tell any one of these fans that they have a messy house after the song that you wrote about me, dude. And as many people as ever said, if you've said clean up your house to me online on social media, and I'm sure that's every one of you who may or may not listen to this, but I can tell you in return that you have a messy house. So to all the people that we stayed with, thank you,
right.
but clean up your stuff, your shit, you know? And I deserve to say that.
Let's talk about that song, because you had a house and you were 21, and that was like a very rare thing to have a musician friend with his own house in a nice part of Jersey.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It
Was awesome, and
Yeah.
I don't know how I deserved it. I didn't deserve it at the time, but it was all right. So my dad, are we doing the full like story about this?
Yeah. People
All
want to
right.
hear this, I'm sure.
All right, I've been, you know, all right. Let's talk about it. So my dad bought a house that the idea was okay, add a second story, or do this big addition, you know, and then flip it down the road when the market got better, and you know, whatever. So I was a little troublemaker, you know, 20 years old, you know, playing in bands, and when I was home, I was probably just a burden, you know, like coming in at 5, 6 in the morning, you know, with like 10 people in my parents' TV room, you know, it wasn't cool. So I asked my dad, I was like, can I live in the house until we like do the construction? And he said, yes. He was like, yes, absolutely. I was like, whoa, really? Like, okay. Like, beautiful house. What? So I went to this house, and
Had you seen it?
I had not seen it.
Okay.
So I know the area, you know, because I would drive through it. But I went to the house for the first time, and it was a house, dude. Like, it was this house that looked like a rental house, you know, but it was nestled in the beginning of this gorgeous neighborhood, like suburban neighborhood. Beautiful area, like right near the train station in New York City, you know, just beautiful area, like $1 million homes,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and the house my dad bought was, you know, the house that, you know, was last in line on the block to get a little makeover,
Right,
you know, to
right.
be up to par. So I had moved into this house, so I brought like my bed frame, you know, and a couple of things, right?
Did it feel safe? Like the locks worked and stuff?
A lot didn't work,
Right.
you know, and like the stove didn't work. There was no phone, like it was outdated house from like the early 60s or whatever. and there's no internet. You know, we got internet eventually, but when I first moved in, I filled my bedroom with my things, so like made it look somewhat presentable.
Was it lonely ever?
Well, I filled my room and I walked out across the hall and I like kind of explored the house a little bit.
Yeah.
And every other room was lonely, and there was like 10 other rooms in the house.
Right.
You know, like it was a pretty decently big house.
Right.
And so I called Joe, you know, this kid Joe who toured with us a couple of times.
And Joe, who produced a lot of Lars attacks. And
yeah, we've talked about Joe.
Live sound. But he hasn't really come up on the podcast much. He did live sound on a few of the MC Chris tours. Now he does radio work in Tampa.
Yeah, he's like one of the more talented people I've ever worked with.
Very talented.
You know, so, but Joe, who I've been friends with, he was in the like one of my first live music experiences with me, you know, in those bands with me.
Yeah.
Playing Bush Machine Head.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. He was just like this little
Singer?
lanky kid. No, bass player.
Right.
But anyway, so I've been friends with Joe forever. So I called him and I was like, yo, like, this house is completely empty, man. You got to move in. And Joe wasn't doing much. He was touring and like kind of bumming around as well.
Was he a Bed Life or Blue Eyes then?
I think, or he had just gotten out. Or no, this is before he was in the band. So I called him and I was like, yo, you got to move in or whatever. He was in college. So he eventually left and moved in, right? And he was in the band.
Yeah.
And we were kind of, you know, living at our parents' house. And then we were like, all right, we got to do something about this house. It's like completely empty. We haven't even been staying there. It's like, you know, dirty and whatever. So a couple of friends and they have this thing like a spring cleaning around here where you leave all your like old furniture and like, you know, garage sale dump, you know, at the curb, and the city will come by and take it. Yeah. So it happened to be the night of like before the pickup.
Okay.
So we got my buddy Nick's dad's pickup truck, and we went basically sifting through people's old furniture, and we furnished the entire house with people's like lawn side garbage.
What about the ping pong table?
Oh yeah, we found a ping pong table that was like half destroyed, and we were like, no, it'll work. And at that point, we were just drinking so much beer, like, and having parties, and
so that's why all the furniture was kind of shabby. It was garbage furniture.
It was all garbage.
What about the couch?
Dude? The couch was from the side of the road too, and like we just sprayed
like
a bunch of Lysol on it. We just sprayed a bunch of Lysol on everything and hope, you know, Joe did what he called like a thorough inspection. You know, we shined a flashlight and like, it was fine. We didn't get like bed bugs or anything, but you know,
so you filled the house for free.
We filled the house with people for free with people's like junk. And because the area was so nice, most of the stuff that people were like throwing out as secondhand stuff was really nice still. They just, you know, maybe replaced it.
You got even better stuff.
Yeah, so we got some decent, like, we had a Lazy Boy couch.
Would you have a truck, or did you just carry it down the street?
No, we had a pickup truck. So we were just like Nick's dad.
Okay.
My buddy Nick's dad had like this pickup. So we just like kind of took it and went dumpster diving basically to furnish this house.
And this was all in the course of a night.
This was all in the course of one night.
And it was all getting picked up anyway.
Yeah. Right. So we didn't feel bad. And like a couple of people saw us like looking through stuff, and they didn't care. They were like, yeah, all right. You know, if you want it, there's some nice blah, blah, blah over there. You know, like kind of being cool about it. And we were just kids, you know. So we furnished the entire house with garbage basically. That's why every time you would come over down the road, you know, like you saw garbage furniture that had turned to even more garbage. So it was kind of like time to restock the house with fresh garbage at that point. Right. But we just kind of let it go. You know, like I said, we like sprayed it with Febreze or some Axe. Like,
you had like a nice TV.
Like the TV, I took that out of my bedroom. Like everything that actually worked was
from your house here,
from my bedroom or Joe's bedroom.
So at what point did Joe start moving furniture in there?
Joe was like there when he helped me move into the place.
What room did he get to pick?
Uh,
One of the many.
One of the many. Yeah. All right. So we had this room. All right. Here's the crazy thing is that I had just started playing with you at that point. So now, and you were doing some really awesome
2006.
stuff. Yeah. You were doing like some really awesome tours and like good shows. So we were young, you know, you were young. I was even younger. And
what am I 3 years older than you? 4 years older than you? Something.
I'm 33 now. So,
36. So,
yeah, so 4 years maybe.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was cool because it became this unsupervised, like cool hub for bands to come over and chill and stay the night. You know, like we had Mayday Parade, you know, we had Bed Light for Blue Eyes. We had, you know, a couple other Trustkill bands. And like, it was cool because like bands, like touring bands were coming by to my house.
They're like, oh, a house, no parents. Great.
Pretty much. Yeah. Like, a driveway I could pull my rig into, like perfect.
Because hotels in New York, New Jersey are not cheap, even crappy hotels.
If you're a touring band, nothing's cheap.
Right.
You know, like at that level. But it was a place that was pretty centralized, you know, from New York City. It's only 20 minutes outside of New York City.
Right.
You know, and then there's a bunch of venues in New Jersey. So a lot of cool bands would come and stay. So we had this one room that somebody did.
Uh-huh.
It was just a small carpeted like office, right? It was a mattress on the ground, like an old, thin, crappy mattress with like a big stain on it. You know, like a blue, like kind of mattress.
Right. Ugh.
Yeah.
Like foam.
Yeah, but like
not even a mattress.
no more than like 6 inches thick. Okay. Right. So, and somebody had these like glitter letter stickers.
Uh-huh.
Like there was letters that would stick to things and it was like glitter, like red glitter.
Right.
Somebody wrote "drunk tank" on the wall and like glued these letters to the wallpaper.
Right.
And it kind of stuck. It was like this little room where if you were too, you know, drunk or whatever you were, you would just I would just throw you in there and be like, you're bugging me, man. Like, go to bed, buddy. You know, or you're not driving home. Like, go, you know. So, yeah, it was really cool. But Joe never took that room. I wanted him to have that room
because it was like a bigger room.
It was a small room. It was like this little tank.
But I remember that.
But
room.
Joe got a dope bedroom. He got spoiled. Joe's spoiled.
So I would stay there with you between tours. And I remember working on songs there, playing a lot of Mario Kart on the GameCube, listening to music. And it became this metaphor for the ennui I felt, but also the blessings I felt between The Graduate and Robot Kills. So one time I found out your middle name was Thatcher. And I just thought Jon Thatcher Longley had like a musical cadence to it. And the fact that the house was dirty, it was funny. But we never really got to the bottom of it. Did it hurt your feelings? Did it feel like I was bullying you and taking advantage of your kindness? Or was it funny? Like,
no, it was never something that like, that's not a cut deep joke, you know, like, I think that only strengthened the bond between us, if anything, you know, like I would never be pissed about that. I just want a chance to explain why the house was messy,
right?
You know, because it's not like I was some like hoarder, you know, that had like banana peels and like mold around the house, you know, like there was moldy food maybe, but
in the fridge,
you know, like the freshest thing in the house is like a can of beer, you know, and you're 21 years old,
right,
with a house and like a bunch of your friends in these cool touring bands that you thought were awesome, just getting drunk and like with reckless, you know, abandon. And it's, can you blame me?
No, I was.
We were kids with a house and like, it was awesome.
It was the fact that like, I remember going in the attic and just being like, I'd never had full reign of a basically empty house like that, because you wouldn't care where we explored. And like the attic, I was like, wow, life is really what we make of it. And like, this is a house that is completely empty and it's full of potential, like our careers at the time or our lives, but also was kind of depressing because it's like, this is what we make of it. And I remember once Brendan from Wheatus had sent me we did a lot of sessions in Long Island, like the summer before. I had this drive. I was on the table trying to like start editing stuff, and the table collapsed and the drive fell off the freaking table and bounced on the floor and broke. And Brendan then would not send me more sessions because he felt I was kind of like sloppy. And also it's a long story, but he and I were trying to figure out like the co-writer splits and we weren't seeing eye to eye, and we worked that out. So it was like, but there goes the first version of the Robot Kills record. So I was writing more, and I think I have that table to thank for that record because I was like, you know, it was what you make of it. I should have put the drive on a more stable, you know, platform, and gosh, but also it was like, you know, we did get a lot done there, and we were focused on rehearsing, and we were gone so much too. Like we should mention that, like you weren't at that house a lot. We were on the road so much.
No, and that was the cool thing is that, well, actually that kind of contributed to the downfall because nobody would live there for months at a time. And then we'd come back and we'd clean it just enough to get by until the next tour, you know, and then just leave again. And oh gosh.
But it was also like I remember you'd have a lot of parties. You'd have a lot of people over. I remember one time I was like I had horrible kidney stones, and I wrote about this on the Digital Gangster album. And I remember once the house was full of people and the kidney stones were starting to pass. And I was like lying on the floor in pain, and Rob goes, "What, you want us to take you to the hospital? What's going on?" And I was like, I don't trust any of these people to take me to the hospital. I'm like, maybe if I go to the tank upstairs, I'll sleep it off. And it wasn't until like a few months later I passed them. But I remember like, this is hell. I'm surrounded by loud, rowdy people. And Rob was like, "Oh, it's just gas." But meanwhile, I was passing these kidney stones, and oh my God.
Yeah, I mean,
it was crazy.
I got used a lot. I mean, not really used because I was friends with these people, but they were friends with me for one reason.
The house.
Because I had an empty house. Like I remember people would, you know, come over to my house in the mornings when they told people they were going to work, you know, and they'd just hang out all day long.
Did it feel annoying?
No, I actually enjoyed the company a lot of the time because it was like, you know, you wake up and like if I wanted to roll a joint, I could, you know, like anywhere in the house.
Your party lifestyle.
If you wanted to like drink beer with 30 of your you know, friends in the house, you could.
Did people ever do harder drugs than weed at your house?
There was one time that I can remember where somebody drop off some weed, right? And this kid comes in, and I had seen him like, you know, a couple of times around town and stuff. So I kind of was familiar with what his deal was, and I knew he was shady. Right. You know, I just knew that he was like a shadier dude.
Was he hanging or was he just dropping something off?
I didn't know at that point. So I had seen him come in, and I didn't really acknowledge it. You know, he was just hanging out for a little bit, talking to somebody I'd assumed dropping off weed, you know, and he kind of disappeared. And I went upstairs, and he and a couple other kids were in my bedroom breaking up lines of cocaine.
Ooh.
So I kind of freaked out.
That's not tight.
Yeah. It just like, you know, and I did not know this kid like at all, basically. I freaked out. So I had a very strict policy of like, that kind of broke the camel's back in terms of letting anyone and everyone into the house.
You could have become sketchier.
Yeah, and like I just have a personal thing with that because I've lost so many friends to it. You know, like drugs are a huge problem. Hard drugs. Right. You know, and I just didn't. I had a mentality and still do that. Like I don't want it around me.
Did you say you guys need to leave, or did you?
Oh yeah, I got really pissed.
Was it awkward? I'm sure.
Yeah, it was really awkward. I was like screaming drunk. I was drunk, you know, and like you know, these 3 kids I don't know are in my bedroom.
Did stuff ever get jacked?
Yeah, we had a couple guitars go missing. That was really bad. But other than that, I mean, like besides the gear, the musical gear that we would store in the house, everything else was pretty much garbage.
Right. So, well, that's the thing, right? It's like you were living for the experiences, and that's the beautiful thing about your 20s. And I always felt fortunate to have friends like you, and specifically a friend like you who wanted to play drums with me, was willing to travel, and we had a place to crash. And you had your freaking van that was dope. That like you'd let us rent and use your van, very discounted.
Dude, well, here's the crazy thing is that I went to skate. All right, so before I had the van, I had a Mazda 6 in like 2003, right? And it's when they came out with this car, and it was kind of like the cool car to have. Like it was this sleek looking, like awesome looking car.
Yeah.
And I remember my parents bought it for me. My parents bought me a car.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Like I have one of the more awesome cars in high school parking lot right now. Right. So I went to Skate and Surf, that festival, with this girl who I was dating at the time, like my high school girlfriend that bled into the college years. Right. So she was begging me to go to Skate and Surf. And luckily, I knew somebody in the Bayside camp, and they hooked it up with 2 tickets for the 3 days of Skate and Surf. She was going to Monmouth University, which is right near Asbury Park, which is where the festival was. So she was going to college there. So I like pulled all these favors with those guys, and they got me in. And I was like, guess what, babe? Like, we're going. I got you the tickets. I got us the tickets. It's going to be awesome. And I remember we had a great time for about a day and a half. And on the second day, at Asbury Park in the convention center, it was like tiered stadium style seating.
Right, right.
So I was like, hey, I'll be right back. I'm going to go smoke a cigarette. And I walked up to it, like a couple rows up, and lit a cigarette. Because people would go smoke in the stands,
Right.
And I picked her out of the crowd, and I watched this dude, like, just walked up to her, and they just started making out.
Oh my gosh!
So I was like, "Oh my,
that's
gosh.
heartbreaking."
Like this was like my first love.
What was the band playing?
Story of the Year was about to go on, so it was like between the break. I know it was Story of the Year who was about to play.
A very emo moment.
Right. And I really love that stuff. You know me. I love pop-up.
Totally.
Like, love the post-hardcore stuff. I love bands like Story of the Year.
Right.
So I was excited for it. We were having a great time. And I saw that this dude, they just started making out. And I was just so, like, enraged. I was pissed. I was, like, sad. I was heartbroken. And I just stormed out.
Did she know him?
Later found out, they were like hooking up at college and stuff.
Dude, and you'd gotten her in.
Yeah, so like I'd done this really nice thing, I thought, for her, and like...
And for the relationship.
To strengthen the bond,
Oh, man.
So it really like kind of hurt, and it got worse after that too.
You told me more stories.
Yeah, but anyway, so the end result of this, I was pissed. So I left the concert. I just left her there. I just walked out. Mm-hmm. And there were 2 outdoor stages. And as I walked by, there was like a group of maybe 100, 200 people that were just like chanting, bouncing souls, bouncing souls. And I was like, oh my gosh, like bouncing souls are about to play.
Yeah.
And right as like I realized that, they come on stage, and Max Weinberg is playing drums for them.
Oh, wow.
Conan O'Brien drummer.
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen drummer.
Right.
Is playing drums for them. And I'm one of like maybe 150, 200 people that knew this show was happening because Story of the Year was about to play.
Right.
And so they're outside. And it just blew my mind. And I just like watched it for like 40 minutes, or 30 minutes rather. Just watched their entire set. It was amazing. But it just calmed me, you know? And that's when I really knew. I was like, wow, like this is what I'm here for. If that, like, music is powerful, man.
Sure.
Because I was like so heartbroken. Like I was just crying like as I was walking to my car. So I get in my car, my Mazda 6. This has a point, I swear. And I'm pissed, and I get in the car, and I'm on the Garden State Parkway, and it was 55-mile-an-hour zone. I just started thinking about things while I'm like driving home. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe she did this, you know, and I'm just getting pissed. And I just put the pedal to the floor and just was doing like over 100, well over 100.
Oh, jeez.
Next thing I know,
New Jersey's finest.
New Jersey's finest
In the rear view.
are in the rear view.
Oh, no.
And their lights are on, and they pull me over, and basically I was doing 137, which is just ridiculously fast.
Felony.
And yeah, so it turned out to be, you know, a felony that I got out of eventually. I got it reduced, but
What did they reduce it to?
reckless driving and some like specific county violation. I forget what it is, but basically I lost my license for like a year.
Oh, dude.
And I couldn't own a high performance vehicle for the next 7
years.
7 years. So I had this Mazda 6, which was all souped up, and it was like it was a high performance engine, you know?
Right.
So I had to get rid of it. But because I was like starting to explore bands and stuff, I was like, I need a van. We got to get a van so we can tour. Like the thought of touring wasn't even a possibility at that time. I just thought like, oh, well, you can't tour if you don't have a van.
Right.
Like, you know, like put 2 and 2 together here, man. Like, where are we going to go? Where's our gear going to go? We need a van. Got to have a van.
Right.
So I was like doing my van research, and I don't know why, but like researching vans and trailers, like it just gave me like happiness. I was like, yes. And I finally found out about these conversion vans, like the old senior wheelchair vans.
Right.
And it combines a van and like a leisure, and it's the best of both worlds. So I found one.
You say a wheelchair van?
Yeah, like you know,
could put a wheelchair.
Yeah, like a Sheraton hotel airport shuttle.
I see,
you know
right,
what I you know, like so I realized that you could have the space and the versatility of a van, but it could also be a luxury vehicle,
right?
You know, with like blinds that come down and a TV that's mounted and a bed that electronically folds in, like you know. So I was like, so I got a van. I found a van.
What was your trade-in value from the Mazda 6 more than the van?
Yeah.
So you made some money.
No, I think it was an even swap.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was awesome because I had a van, and it was just ridiculous looking, dude. I had my everyday driver was this giant van,
right?
Like going to 7-Eleven, performing like a 22-point turn to get out of the parking lot. You know, like it was just ridiculous.
It was a beast,
but it upped my value as a musician by like 1,000,000%.
Sure, because there's not a lot of great drummers, and there's people, not a lot of band members have their own transportation.
Yeah.
So you could tour with anyone.
Right. So you and I meeting was almost fate because you had a great opportunity and a great platform.
Right.
And you needed, you know, a musician and transportation.
Right.
And like
we became friends.
Yeah, and like we're both like able to be friends, and we didn't like hate each other. There's never been a moment where I've been like truly mad at you. Right. I can honestly say that.
Same, right.
You know, and so it just like it worked, and then other people would be like, "Oh, dude, you have a band and you play drums. Like that's perfect." You know, so I realized that like bundling all these things that people need was like it was epic. It was getting the van was the best thing that ever happened.
Better than the Mazda 6.
100%.
So in a way, God, so Skate and Surf was the jump off.
Yeah.
What year was this? 04? Was that the year I played?
04. Yeah, I played it too.
Yeah. That's crazy.
No. This was not 04. This was 05.
Okay.
05.
So 04 you played with
04 I played with a ska band.
Right.
That Joe was in too.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you had played in a band with Rob called Clark Street, which we talked about.
Yeah.
And that's why Rob recommended you, because you eventually auditioned for MC Lars. And what was our first big tour? Was it was it? It was like all those, maybe those shows we played summer of 07 or 06 where we went up and played the MTV Canada stuff.
Yeah. So my first 3 shows with you were, one was headlining a hippie festival called Grassroots.
Right.
And that was like
in upstate New York.
2,000, 3,000 maybe people, right? It was huge.
Yeah, it was big.
That was my first experience like in a real professional, like working musician role, you know?
Right. That was a great show.
And I remember there was like somebody giving massages backstage, and like I was just like, whoa. Like we drove my van right up back to it.
Yeah, I remember
it was
that.
awesome.
When Steve was with us.
Yeah, Steve was with us.
Who was the guy who sings in Signing Emo?
Yeah, so we just, it was amazing. It was like my dreams coming true.
Was Rob with us?
I think so, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And then the next show was, I think, MTV Canada, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
Or one of the early shows.
Or it was
with you.
Albany Catch 22. Did you play that show?
I don't know. Dude, I just remember it was a string of like amazing shows, and it scared the hell out of me.
So we were backstage at the MTV thing, and you were giving me a massage just because you're being nice.
Gosh.
And the guys from Korn walk by, and they go, "Oh, we want to be in that room with you guys. What's up?" Right? You remember that?
Yeah. And then what's it? Fieldy? Is that his name?
Yeah.
He comes in like behind Jonathan Davis, and he like asked for our cinnamon buns. They had like put like a pastry thing on the table. Remember that?
Right.
And he's like, you all gonna eat those cinnamon buns? And we were like, no, man. Like, and he just like grabbed them with his hand. Do you remember that?
Maybe I was setting up.
I don't know, dude. It was incredible though. I was like,
also we're meeting Korn.
Gosh,
yeah,
like, Korn is there. And then wasn't Nick Cannon there somewhere or something?
If he was, I don't think we met him.
Yeah, but I mean, I just remember that being like, oh my god.
Well, yeah, I threw you to the wolves, and that like I was like, well, this dude, he's serious. He's a good drummer. He cares. And just over the years, you got more tasteful and refined. And early on, like Rob and I talked about this. We'd play the full track with all the vocals, and you'd kind of drum along. But we figured out the balance of click track versus like paring things down, and then eventually. All 3 Warped tours that I ever did, you played every show with me, and you never let me down on stage, and those were great shows.
We played a lot of shows, man.
What are you up to now, though?
Well, now I've taken a break from touring.
Yeah.
And I guess you could say I kind of found another passion that I'm able to like kind of jump into, which is teaching sales. So I'm a sales trainer, and it's weird, man. Like touring allowed me to be confident enough and like gave me experiences throughout the entire world that I can use in sales. Like for instance, if I'm selling in Florida, hey, where are you from originally? Yeah. So if they say, like, oh, I'm from Poughkeepsie, New York. I'm like, oh, cool. The Chance Theater, right? What about Astro's Pizza right next door? It's awesome, right? Or, oh, yeah, we're from, like
Rochester,
Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And I'm like, oh, cool. So Aces, right?
That's cool.
and it's this instant like rapport builder, so that, and also, dude, slinging merch like at Warped tours. We used to wake up ourselves. And we did Warped 2 people, man.
I know. For
2
years,
summers.
it was just you and me.
That's huge, man.
Yeah, bro.
That
wasn't easy.
2 people, like no TM, no like stage help, no merch help, nothing. We were spoiled on tour bus, but
sure. But it was like Warped Tour is exhausting that you have to get up early, and with 2 people, we had to coordinate setting up the tent, playing, getting food. All the promotion, which we were very heavy about, putting up flyers.
Yeah, and what was cool is that I remember we said like, okay, so what we're gonna do merch. Let's alternate dates.
On setting up.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Remember that happened for a while.
So some days you'd set up, some days I would.
Yeah, or I thought we alternated, but
yeah, no, we did.
I mean, you definitely probably did it more than I did.
Well, the thing about Warped Tour is that those of you listening who have done it know this, that setting up merch is an ordeal because you have to have the best slot next to your stage. But the people, it's very chaotic because the people in charge of the merch organization will come by and be like, nope, this line of 20 tents can't be here. This is where the emergency like ambulances need to drive through.
Right.
So they'll move 20 tents. So you have to scramble to find the best spot. And if you're not near your stage, it's hard for fans to find your merch. So if you're not there waiting for the guy to up until 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock when it opens, you could have to move across the entire festival ground. So it's very stressful because not only do you have to move a tent, you'll have to move 10 bins. It's hectic. So with 2 people, I don't know. We were like definitely on our texting and like someone have to get breakfast and.
Well, I remember what was awesome, and thank you again for this. I remember being miserable some days, and then you would just come walking out of the sunlight, like into the tent with like this huge breakfast spread, like, you know, like donuts and oatmeals and just pastries and like egg sandwiches. Like it was awesome. Coffee. You were like a hero. Yeah, coffee every day. So I mean,
often I do that. Dude. You'd start setting up the shirts, and I'd wait in the breakfast line. And the meals at Warped Tour. This is getting into the minutia, but like a lot of Warped Tour is waiting in line to get fed. Breakfast. The breakfast lines were shorter because everyone was so busy.
Yeah,
and it was hectic.
And everybody was awesome. So like, yeah. You know, you could just walk up and grab a bunch of food, bring it back to your tent, you know, and it was really cool, man. But anyway, the fact that we've done just some Warped Tours alone, man, that's like over almost 150 shows probably, right? Warped Tour.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And then lots of shows with MC Chris, we did the UK stuff with him and Weird Science. And that was cool because Josh Shepard from Coheed was always like a big influence on you as a drummer. And now you're playing drums with him as a rapper.
Yeah, that still blows my mind, man.
That's tight.
Like I was telling you tonight, I remember being in my room, sitting in my room watching Coheed DVDs and like watching Josh play, just being like, oh my gosh, like beast. That's the height. You know, that's what I'm after.
Yeah.
And then to have everything fall into place the way it has and to be able to call Josh a friend now is like, it's insane.
And that he really respects you as a drummer. And he's gotten you other gigs.
Yeah, he got me other gigs playing with like, you know, other bands, but he taught me a lot about how to play the drums. I'll never forget we were at Warped Tour watching a band play. And I'm not going to say the name of the band, but the drummer was just doing these crazy, unbelievable fills. You know, it was so flashy, but it sounded really cool. And I just like kind of hit Josh. I was like, yo, this dude is tearing it up, man. It's awesome. And Josh just casually looks at me and goes, dude sucks. And I was like, what do you mean he sucks, dude? Like, did you see that stick twirl? He's like, yeah, but now I want you to listen to what he's doing. He can't even play a beat. And I listened to it, and there wasn't a solid measure of just beat ever. It was always some flashy fill. And he just said to me right there, I remember it was like an aerial perspective. It was really weird, like ambience when he said this, but he goes, less is more, dude.
Right.
If you're a good drummer, you're tasteful. You know what to play, when to play, and how much to play.
And a lot of Warped Tour is the bands that get big, it's a lot of style over substance. You look cool. Alternative Press likes your hair that month, so you're headlining. Right.
But Josh is a true a true musician, and to be in this situation where him and I are standing together, and he's telling me how to be a better drummer. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah,
he was playing Warped Tour, but so was I. You know, like that blew my mind.
I know. And not only that, you were drumming for his rap project.
Yeah, I got to share a stage with him nonetheless. You know, and like I remember before at sound checks, he would grab the kit, like jump on the drums and just play this most amazing beats.
And everyone would be like,
everybody would be like, whoa, what the heck? This dude is insane. And then I'd have to like get on and do the show. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Josh is a magical person, and I want to do an episode with him. And we've been planning on doing it in it's amazing. The things that music brings your life, when you like dedicate your life to it and are fortunate enough to have opportunities and friends who can help you capitalize on that opportunities, there's nothing like it. And that's why it's been fun this summer, practicing for the show with Big D and the Kids Table, and then the Warped Tour at Atlantic City we're going to do. It's like today at rehearsal, felt good, man, because I do so much with just a laptop, but to have you, Rob, and Mike, and all the tasteful stuff you guys are playing, it was like emotional and like really fun. It was like, this is fun.
It was really fun to get back to that, man. Like I couldn't even lift my arms by the end of it, you know. Like, I was just having
4 hours.
I don't know, but I was just having a good time playing with you guys, and we haven't played with Rob in oh my gosh, it's been forever.
Rob's a beast. 10 years.
Yeah, Rob's such an amazing like aspect of the show.
And singer.
When we can, oh, he's singing,
Yeah.
all this stuff, and he's playing these intricate bass parts at the same time. It's sick, and the mic's ripping it. Like it's just a cool vibe to kind of come back to. We played together 10 years ago.
All of us. Yeah. And I hope we can do more because it's like I consider this lineup the best it's sounded. And it's cool that we're doing now. A lot of the set is just without the tracks, like you just holding it down with the rhythm and no samples. We figured a way to recreate without the tracks. And hip hop now is so, we were talking about this, it's so sample based. It's so like much auto-tune and not that it's bad, but there's kind of like something progressive about having a timeless setup where it's just acoustic instruments, Rage Against the Machine style. Like,
Yeah.
it's fun. And I feel like I can rap better. I can sing some of the parts better. And it's like, yeah, man, I just, as millennial nostalgia continues to be like a real market, I hope that people will continue to want to see us and hope we can do more band stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Millennial nostalgia. That's great.
It
really is, dude. Like
Yeah.
the only music that really a lot of people are listening to now is music that they're finding again.
Right.
Or, like genres that they used to love that they want to listen to again.
The 10-year reunions of
Yeah, man. Like, bands are bigger now off their older stuff
Bowling
than they
Pursuit,
ever were. Yeah.
Simple Plan.
Coheed and Cambria, like
Right.
Taking Back Sunday. Like, it's awesome.
It's awesome.
I love it because I love that music. So I'm like, yes, finally, it's back again. Like,
Well, I think you know what it's like. I mean, not to get very political, but it's a time when before like truth and consensus and art was so fragmented and so like, algorithmic, and it was just like it reminds us of a happier time in the world, and I think it's fun to be like a inroad for that. Even though some of this stuff, like Download the Song and some of my older stuff, predicted the changes. It's
Yeah, it did.
it's fun to play with you guys, and I can't wait for the show tomorrow. And this podcast way after it, but I'll talk about how the show went, which I know is awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Hopefully you have good things to say. But yeah, dude, I mean, I'm just so tired today. Like
You flew in from Tampa this
I flew
morning.
in from Tampa this morning, got picked up at the airport straight to rehearsal.
I know. You're a trooper.
But I'm just like tired because I've been working so much too. So
Yeah.
I'm a little out of it, but
This has been a great conversation.
it's so fun to see you guys again. At the wedding, like
Yeah,
it was
you were
like
there.
the first time in forever, and it just felt so good.
I
And,
know.
like, I love you, man. I
love
really
you too,
do.
Johnny.
Dude. Seen the
JTL.
world together.
We
really have.
We
It's
have, and-
insane.
We have a lot of stories, and we only touched on a few, but maybe we'll do another episode sometime.
Yeah, man. Let's chat.
What's up with your Twitter? JTL baby?
Nah, I do. Okay.
Are
I
you
do-
nuked your social media?
Kinda. Yeah.
Why?
It was distracting, man. It was
Yeah.
distracting as all hell. Like when I really got it in my mind that I needed to focus on something other than trying to be financially stable playing drums and bands.
Mm-hmm.
I needed something else. So I dove into this sales thing. And I realized that I was sitting at my desk when I should be like looking for new customers or something. I should be motivating myself. But instead, I'm scrolling through all this music stuff. Like seeing all my friends doing awesome stuff and like,
Which is FOMO right there.
Yeah, it's FOMO. But then I love fishing and boats, and I'm just like, digressing into the depths of the internet with like, just crap when I should be focusing.
We didn't even
on
talk about
task
that.
at hand.
Your whole talent and world of all your fishing stories. Oh, we got to,
Yeah.
can we got to end with the whale story.
Okay.
Go
That's
ahead.
the most incredible thing that I think we've ever shared.
Yeah, I agree.
And it was really weird because the company that shared it with us was a little off. Like it wasn't.
What, you mean the beats we were listening to? Or our homie who was with us?
Both.
Right. It was a weird moment. Well, I don't want to, I interjected your story.
No. So, no, that's actually great because that adds a perfect ambience to this.
I'll
Brought the
Yeah.
CD of your rapper friend.
A friend of mine who was doing like this white kid who was doing like very hyphy, over the top gangster kind of music, but it was kind of tight.
It was like a crummier Yellow Wolf before its
Pre-Yellow
time.
Wolf.
Yeah,
Right.
Like
It
that's
was
how I
on
would
cassette.
describe. Yeah, I actually enjoyed it after like the 25th time listening to the CD. So we go out in my boat,
But can I tell the story before?
Yeah.
So it was a weird time because I just had a meeting where my former manager was like, yeah, we're dropping you. We're not able to help you with the record. Good luck. Peace. And I was like, great. Well, Robot Kills is almost done. What am I going to do? Like these people had held my hand from the beginning. That day is the day Weird Al and I first talked on the phone about doing the accordion stuff. And I was like, I want to still release these songs. They're great. I have this great feature. And I was feeling like, God, like it was like this cataclysmic connection of, I felt like everything was over, but also there was a whole new beginning. So we went up to Cape Cod and borrowed your family's boat. It was like winter. Or spring?
It was it was February, man. It must have been, it was cold. I remember that. Like we shouldn't have been on a boat, probably.
Not safe.
Yeah, in the Atlantic. Like it was, it was kind of dumb.
So, okay, now I pass the mic to you.
All right, so you bring this CD of this, what was his name?
Oh, we don't have to say it.
Whatever it was.
Yeah,
so he brings this crunk thing and we're blasting it we drive my parents' boat out to the middle of the bay. Nobody's out. Like it's freezing. I don't know. Nobody's around.
And we're banging on the boat along with the rhythm of this.
Yeah.
city.
So we're banging on the bottom of the boat with the bass and and all of a sudden out of nowhere, how close was it, man? It must have been 10, 15 feet.
Maybe even closer.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Right. It was close enough to really get a good look. But this humpback whale breached 10 feet, 15 feet from the boat. And its giant eyeball just looked at us. And he gave us this look. And the eyeball was it was the size of a volleyball, man.
Or I would say it was the size of a big chair.
It was huge, dude. It was huge. And this whale was massive.
And what was crazy about it is that it felt like he was looking at us for a good 30 seconds. He was chilling, watching us.
Yeah.
And he was right by the boat.
I think it was giving us approval, everything's going to be all right. I don't know, man. It was a weird, that was awesome.
That was one of the most mystical things.
And look what happened, dude.
Every 10 years later.
Yeah, look where you're at. You're still doing it.
I know. And you toured
Thanks,
the world.
whale.
Well, and it's ironic that, you could say it's ironic that one of the singles from The Graduate was Ahab, which was based on a true story of a ship that left from Nantucket. We're right off the coast of Cape Cod, near Nantucket.
Yep.
And here's this whale saying, "What's up?"
Signing off. Just being yo,
it's all good.
I'm with you.
Keep it moving.
Just keep doing your thing, bro, and you have a great day. I'm a giant whale. How many humpbacks say that to people? How much more motivation do you need?
Right. That's the thing. The plot of Moby Dick is you can look into that whale's eye, and him not responding either means the universe doesn't care and is apathetic, or the universe is at peace with your anonymous journey. And it's we looked into that, and I remember you and I we were banging on the boat. We both literally jumped back and almost fell over. We're oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Freaking, because the whale
breached.
Could have breached under the boat.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't going to, but it could. Moby Dick does.
Dude, it sprayed its giant blowhole this, and it was loud, dude. It could have missed at us with the blowhole. That's how close it was. It was loud and it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Because the water was calm.
Well, and we were, that was what's so crazy. We were obviously in the middle, there was nothing happening. And here's this loud, you've never heard people banging on a boat to Bay Area rap in the middle of the bay. And so the whale's what are you fools doing? Almost keep it down. I'm sleeping. Yeah. And then he dipped down and we were we were out for a few minutes. We're let's go back.
Yeah.
He might come and not be so friendly next time.
It was weird that you and I were on the same side of the boat when we fell backwards.
Yeah, I know.
And it happened to be the same side of the boat the whale breached on.
Right. And we both saw it at the same time.
Yeah. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Nature's beautiful.
What a great thing. That was awesome.
Jon Longley. So I was going to say, where can people follow you? But you're on what? Facebook?
I'm on Facebook, man. But
so you probably don't add just random people, right?
No, not really.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Keep it moving.
Yeah, I'll probably start an Instagram. I don't know, man. Come see a show.
Yeah, come
exactly. Hang out.
Come see Jon with as many bands. You've been playing with Maylene, right?
Been playing with Maylene and the Sons of Disaster, but that's kind of on the back burner for now.
Yeah.
So while Dallas recovers as singer.
Thanks, Jon. I love you, dog.
I love you too, buddy.
Peace. Your house is clean.
Now it is.
Last thing, what did you think when I named the song your actual address? Because that is the actual address.
Yeah, and you didn't spell my name differently in the lyrics.
Well, I put a H, John.
Is it Jon?
Yeah.
All right, then that's cool.
I didn't say the town. Should we say the town? Nah. Should we? What a great breaking news. Can we? I'm not going to unless you want to. Or should we keep it a secret?
Yeah, it's a secret,
It's
man.
a secret. All right. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah.
Jon.
What's up?
Yo, I'm going to put the song about your house on the album. Is that cool?
Yeah, I just don't have any, stalkers knowing my name, my full name. Do you think it's cool?
We'll keep it on the DL. We're going to spell it in the lyrics differently than it is.
Alright, that's cool, yeah, whatever.
My drummer has the messiest house in New Jersey. My drummer has the messiest house in New Jersey. Jon Thatcher Longley, clean up your house. Jon Thatcher Longley, clean up your house. My drummer has the messiest house in New Jersey. My drummer has the messiest house in New Jersey. In New Jersey. My drummer has a messy house, and that is what this song's about. As I write these rhymes, I'm starting to doubt this kid will never take the garbage out. The living room is full of cans, the ping pong table barely stands. I guess he's too busy with other demands like GameCube and listening to pop punk bands. There's pizza boxes act in the living room, no mops, no brooms, and no vacuums. Open the fridge and you might see half a Mr. Pibb and some moldy cheese. Upstairs the toilet barely works, that's just one of the many perks. Last time it took me half an hour to figure out how to work his upstairs shower. Jon Thatcher Longley, clean up your house. Jon Thatcher Longley, clean up your house. My drummer has the messiest house in New Jersey. My drummer has the messiest house in New Jersey. His house makes me think about all the things in life you can live without, like internet, pens, tables, and chairs. There's mail stacked randomly on the stairs. The bathroom door's falling off. I went to the attic and started to cough, but every time a tour rolls by, you know we'll stay at Laurel Drive. Jon Thatcher Longley, clean up your house. Jon Thatcher Longley, clean up your house. My drummer has the messiest house in New Jersey. My drummer has the messiest house in New Jersey. Jon Thatcher Longley, clean up your house. 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 I mean, does it make you mad at all?
No, I think it's hilarious.
All right, cool. I just wanted to make sure it was cool. Drummer, it's a messy house. That is what this song's about. Is that song funny? Is it cruel? After hearing the history, you decide. Jon has a great sense of humor about it and great drummer. Can't wait to tour with him more. Love him to death. Thank you, Jon. Next week, we got Mike Russo, my bass player / guitarist / tour manager, who's co-written a lot of songs with me. He's a dude from Erie, Pennsylvania, who ended up working in upstate New York, doing college bookings for his company called Concert Ideas. We met because he heard of me. He was working for us, booking us college shows. And then eventually he became my tour manager, touring guitarist. He talks about how he helped Kay Flay get her management deal, which helped her get signed. We talk about our early years touring. We talk about the MC Chris years. We talk about Warped Tour. Really cool. Mike's a very sensitive, beautiful person. He's not sensitive in a bad way. He's just very deep and open with his emotions. You know, you meet a lot of people in the music industry, some good, some bad. Mike is a winner. I love him to death. So check that out next week on the MC Lars podcast. Hope you all having a good summer. Check out that Patreon flavor. Oh yeah, last thing. I'm doing a thing where if you're a Patreon supporter, if you want to call and tell an MC Lars story to the Google Voice number, you'll get a free t-shirt. So a story about a favorite song, a show, something. I just thought it'd be cool. I'm going to post that number on Patreon. You can call, and every week we'll have a winner who's got the best story, and he or she or they will get a shirt. Okay, bye everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Jon. Thanks for being on the episode. Bye.